Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to a special webinar this morning with the Executive Women's Council of the Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce, sponsored by Kettering Health Network. I am Stephanie Kyneth. I'm the Director of Public Policy and Economic Development here with the Chamber, and along with Jenna Robbins, who is our Manager of Public Policy Programming, she and I manage two programs, our Executive Women's Council as well as our Empower Women's Leadership program. So many of you on this webinar today have been part of either of those programs in the past. So we're very excited to chat with Erica this morning, who is one of our local entrepreneurs and small business owners and has a great story to share. So there will be time for questions with her. But to kick things off and do our official welcome, I would like to turn things over to Vanessa Glotfelter. Vanessa is our current Executive Women's Council Chair and is the Vice President of Barge Design Solutions. She was also a graduate of Empower Cohort 1. So Vanessa, I'm going to turn things over to you to do the welcome this morning.
Right. Thank you, Stephanie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. All right. Well, it is so nice to see a bunch of friendly, familiar faces. And Erica, it's so great to have you. We are very excited to have you join us this morning from Erica Fit Love. She's a mother, a cancer survivor, a nationally recognized wellness coach, been featured on the cover of Women's Health magazine, and owns a fitness studio. She's dedicated to helping others on their own personal weight loss journeys. You might also recognize her as a trainer on the most current season of NBC's The Biggest Loser. Erica has been able to take her own personal health journey into a business opportunity and inspired thousands of others. So with that, Erica, thank you so much for being with us.
No, thanks for having me. I'm really excited. I always joke with everyone that I meet who always ask me, what is it like, being on national TV and having this really big platform? I would assume you'd want to move to LA or New York for your career because that's where you spend most of your time. And I say, no, I absolutely love Dayton. Dayton is home. Dayton keeps me humble, keeps me happy. Dayton is my city and I love my city and I'll do anything for my city all the time. So thank you for having me. I love to interact with local business people, and Dayton is something about this city, as you guys know, is just so welcoming and so amazing. And we get through so many things together. And I'll never leave Dayton, no matter what. Bob Harper, I'll never forget. We were sitting down having dinner one night with me and Steve and major network executives for NBC Network. And they're all eating their fancy steaks and their fancy drinks. And I'm just having a good old Tito's and a regular cheeseburger and fries. And they're like, well, Erica, you got to move to New York for your career. And I said, nope, I can't wait to go back to Dayton for my Marion's pizza and, my local stuff. And I can't wait for that. And I look forward going back to normal and my good old Midwest people. So a little bit about me. Obviously, thank you for introducing me. My name is Erica. I actually grew up in Cincinnati. I graduated from Little Miami High School, and I came to the Dayton area because I went to Wright State University. I actually came to Wright State University because I wanted to be a teacher. That's what I was really interested in. And I went to Wright State for sociology and psychology. I was really interested in how people's mind works and what makes them tick and what really gets them going. And I've always kind of really been interested in that. Now, looking back at it and where my life is now, it kind of intertwines with fitness. But for me, I've always been overweight. I've struggled with my weight my whole entire life. The smallest size I can remember being personally was a freshman in high school and being a size 20. And us as women, you guys know what those sizes are. When I tell my husband that story, he goes, I don't know what a size 20 is. Like, I have no recollection of what that means. And I'm like, for a freshman in high school, that's a pretty decent size. Now I'm 5'11", so I'm built pretty big. Like, my hands are just almost as big as my husband. So I'm built pretty big anyways, but that's still a pretty decent size as a freshman in high school. And I grew up with food issues my whole life. I come from a big Mexican family. We love to eat, drink, eat some more. That's just what we do. I grew up with food as my connection. I have a relationship with food even now to this day. I will never ever say I don't have a relationship with food. Just because I lost weight doesn't mean that that will miraculously go away. It's something I still struggle with to this day. So throughout college, I packed on not only the freshman 15, but it was like the freshman 50 for me. And then I met my ex-husband, and you know, when you get in a relationship, you start getting comfortable and you get the happy pounds and you're okay in a relationship. So then I packed on another 50 pounds. And then I had my son, and my son, I packed on probably about 25, 30 pounds. And then I really struggled with postpartum depression after I had him. So then naturally came more weight. And I remember when he was about 3.5, almost 4 years old, and he was sitting on the floor one day, and he looked up at me and he said, "Mom, will you play with me?" And I told him no. And I remember just this really, really heavy feeling in me of telling my son no, that I couldn't play with him on the floor. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, not because I really didn't want to, but because my body couldn't. And I would just had zero energy. And I'd rather sit on the couch and watch TV. I was working at iSupply as the HR director at that time. And I was exhausted. I was tired. I'd rather eat goldfish. I didn't want to get up off the couch and pick up toys and just exert energy. And something about that moment was my very aha, and I still get goosebumps to this day thinking about it, because that moment for me was very pivotal. He did not ask to be brought into this world. I wanted him here. And the fact that I couldn't play with him hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was only in my mid-20s. So something about that moment, I decided the next day to get on the scale. Don't ask me why. I drug it out of my closet. I haven't seen it in years. I got it out of the closet and I stepped on the scale. And you guys, I kid you not, it was like my heart went whoosh. I stepped on the scale and it said 322 pounds. I was 25, 26 years old, and I was 322 pounds. I couldn't even play with my own son. I had zero energy. I was out of breath walking down the hallway. And I thought, my goodness, he's almost 4. What's going to happen when he's 10? Or what's going to happen when he's 20? And will I even be here when he's 30 if I keep going this way? So it was just signs that were happening all over the place. Commercials for the local Planet Fitness here in Centerville. They were starting to open. They were having commercials for Join Now. So I went into the local Planet Fitness and I asked the front desk, what's the process for signing up? They were actually behind in construction, and they were like, well, you can sign up, but we're not ready to open, so you'll have to drive to the Riverside location. I was so dedicated that I lived in Centerville, and I decided to drive to Riverside at 4 in the morning every morning just to get started to walking on the treadmill. And that's all I started with, was walking on the treadmill. And that's where I started in the basics. Before my son got up, before my husband got up, 4 in the morning, that's all I would do, because that's all I could do. My body was 322 pounds. I've never worked out before. And then with my food, I just started with the basics. And I'm so glad I started losing weight when I did, because nowadays we're so oversaturated with all these different ways to lose weight and get fit that it's overwhelming. And back then, social media wasn't as saturated with all these different ideas on how to lose weight, that I just stuck with the basics. I knew less calories in, more calories out. So I would just cut back on what I made for the family. So if we had pizza, instead of eating the whole large pizza, I would just have 1 or 2 slices and a side salad. If I made spaghetti, I would just cut the portion in half versus the whole pot of spaghetti. And then I just got smarter. So instead of cooking with red meat, I would cook with lean ground turkey, or, instead of white rice, brown rice. And then it just naturally grew from there. I think a lot of people just really want all the information now, that we go from 0 to 180 really quick and we burn ourselves out. So at the time, I was working as an HR director in iSupply. My college kind of shifted, my learning kind of shifted. I actually ended up working at a temp agency called The Job Store, and I was their sales director there. And then that got me into HR, and then I ended up working in HR And then from there, that's when I was losing the bulk of my weight. And I actually went to iSupply as their HR director. And at that time, I started getting into fitness so much that I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to actually like pursue this a little bit more. So when I was at iSupply, I'll never forget, I was working out at the gym at 5 p.m. one night, and my Instagram started to slowly grow. So I actually tracked all my weight loss on Instagram during this time. And I'll never forget when I found what Instagram was. I was sitting on the couch one day, and my ex-husband's cousin, who was like 13 at the time, was playing on this app. And she had like 1,200 followers. And I was like, how do you have 1,200 followers? You're 13. I said, I don't even have 1,200 friends. Like, what is this? She's like, oh, it's Instagram. You just share photos and this is what you do. And I thought, well, this would be a good way to hold me accountable for losing weight. Like, just let me post pictures of my workouts or what I'm doing. And that's simply how I started. And I remember a couple months into it, after I lost 60, 70 pounds, I decided to share a side-by-side photo of my weight loss journey. And one night I woke up and some page who had over 1 million followers shared my side-by-side photo. And that's kind of what started people following me, was that one simple post. And then I started getting a lot of people interested in asking advice. I got started when Instagram didn't even really know what influencers was. So I really got lucky at the timing of sharing my story. So when I got a lot of messages and people emailing me, what are you doing for weight loss? What are you doing for food? What are you doing for workouts? I started to understand there was something really to this. I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial mindset. So I thought, let me see about this. And I decided, let me Google an ebook. And I thought, okay, this seems pretty easy. Ebook, go ahead and write a Microsoft Word doc. Now, keep in mind, this was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And I went and got a GoDaddy website, and I wrote an ebook, and it was a football Sunday. And I said, okay, let me write an ebook. It was literally probably about 10 or 12 pages. I just drafted it really quick. I got a GoDaddy website. I learned it within 2 or 3 hours. I uploaded my ebook. I connected my PayPal to it. And I remember we were going to Frickers, and I said, okay, if I sell enough ebooks to buy a pair of Nikes, that'll be awesome. Like, I was super excited. And keep in mind, we were new parents. We had literally 2 nickels to rub together. Like, I would be excited if I had $60 extra to buy a pair of Nikes. We come back from Frickers that night, and I sold over $800 worth of ebooks. And the ebooks were only like $3.99. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's something to this. People want to hear what I have to say. So then I started to go into, well, if obviously people are buying this ebook for $3.99, people are interested in what I have to offer. Let me see if there's some kind of training certification that I can go in and get on my own. So then I started researching training certifications online. And at the time, there was a training certification called ISSA. So then I went ahead and I got certified ISSA, which is one of the top 3 online training certifications you can get online. So I did that, and then came my brand of one-on-one training online. Now, back then, 6 years ago, that was the way that training was done online. Influencers were really starting to be their own brand back in the day. So they would make their own program, and it would be, email me your name. They would come up with their own entry form, their own pricing, and you would contact whatever influencer you want that was obviously certified. And then they would come up with a program for you based off your entry form. And they would come up with your nutrition or your macros and your workout plan. And you could go ahead and have a once-a-week call with them, and they would go over your program, your food, your workouts, and you would submit your photos. Now you can understand, you are basically trading dollars for hours at that point. So it was really exhausting. And I did that for a couple years, but then I found myself really just getting exhausted, and it was getting time consuming. Oh, there's one of the fur babies. But it was getting just really exhausting. And I was thinking, like, this is just getting to be too much. And I wanted to change my model a little bit more. So then I adopted training in person and wanting to have trainers come under me. So throughout that time, I actually ended up getting a divorce, and I had to basically start from scratch all over again. So my son was only about 4.5, 5 years old. I had to start all over. I gave my ex-husband absolutely everything. Again, we were still so young. I had to learn how to be a single mom and learn to live on my own for the first time. You know, I'm fully transparent. I even had to file bankruptcy, Chapter 13. You know, I learned nothing when I was young when it came to credit cards. And I had to pay off my debt the hard way, and I had to learn lessons the very hard way. And so throughout that, I literally had to start from the bottom and start all over again. And it was really tough for a very long time. Then I got lucky. I feel like my life has been a series of coming from the ashes again. Like I get knocked down and then I have to rise from the ashes. I feel like every lesson is okay. I feel like the universe or God is like, all right, I'm going to give you a really hard lesson. And how bad do you want this? And you need to really show me how bad do you want this career, or how bad do you want to learn from this? Show me, and then I'll give you what you want. So I feel like that's been my life since I've been an adult. So once I got through that, then I remember a couple people from Instagram were sending me an online form for Women's Health Magazine. And they were sending me this link and said, Women's Health Magazine is doing America's Next Fitness Star. And I thought, there's no way. At this point, I lost about 125, 130 pounds. And I was like, there's no way. This is Women's Health Magazine. This is a national magazine. I can't do this. I went ahead and submitted it anyways. And sure enough, they called me and they told me that I got top 5 for this, which means I got to be on the cover of Women's Health Magazine, and I get to be with other 4 women, and they got to fly me out to New York. I got to be sponsored by Propel Magazine, and I would have a photo shoot. I would get to be wined and dined and get to do all the amazing things. So I got to fly out there and do that experience, which was absolutely amazing. One of the biggest lessons I learned from that is that comparison trap, right? And to really enjoy these amazing moments that we get to experience as women that we're handed. So often I think that when we get handed these experiences that we worked so hard for, we really truly don't enjoy them, because so often we're comparing ourselves and we're like, did we really earn this? Did we really get this opportunity, or did we just get lucky, right? It's almost what do they call it? There's an actual thing for it. I just did a big post on this, but it's an actual thing that a lot of us will struggle with, where we, instead of enjoying the moment, we actually wonder, are we worthy of this? And I look back at that moment and I so wish that I enjoyed it, because instead of that, I just kind of was tucked back a little bit. Looking at pictures, you think I was confident, but instead I was like, really hidden in my shell, when that I really could have had an opportunity to blossom at that time. But I was very blessed that I got to be on that cover. I didn't win, but it was an amazing experience, and it actually kind of catapulted my career. From then I got to be on shows like Rachel Ray, and I got a contract with Rachel Ray where I got to be on her show once a year for summer quarters and do weight loss segments or fitness tips once a summer. I got to be on the Meredith Vieira show. I got to be on the Today Show. So that really catapulted myself, allowed me to get a lot of exposure, a lot of just really good comfortability when it comes to being on the camera and public speaking, and just get comfortable being around different people, different experiences, different outlets, and just get comfortable. So I was really thankful for women's health. So then backtracking back to the studio, my first studio, since I did have to file bankruptcy, you can imagine I had nothing in my bank account. So my first studio was actually in Centerville, right past the Centerville High School. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Flower Man Factory, right back on Com Park Drive. So right back on Com Park Drive, when you pull in, there's that auto detailing shop, that old garage. Okay. So imagine how creepy it is in the back of that auto detailing garage. That's where my studio was, all right? It was really scary. It almost felt like you could get murdered back there. We had no lights. We had no windows. The only light that we had was when you pulled open the garage. That was it. It smelled like gasoline. It smelled like auto paint. It was disgusting. I bought everything secondhand, but somehow we made it work for 2 years, and my clients grew. They stuck with me. God love them. But for some reason, that told me that what I had to offer, people wanted. And what that meant was it was a community. People will, there's trainers all over the place, right? They're not necessarily there to buy my service. Whatever service you have to offer people, they can buy that anywhere. They're there for that relationship that I am offering them. They're there for that experience that I am offering them. What about my experience is unique to them? One thing that I spoke about when I went live on my studio page on Facebook a couple weeks ago, and you can look at it on my Facebook page. One question that I get all the time when new people come in for a consultation is, what makes you so different? And I say, absolutely nothing, because I think what people want to hear is they want me to hear how competitive I am against other businesses in the area. I'm not here to tell you why I'm so much better than X, Y, and Z. What makes me better is just me, right? Like, you can go find another trainer that's going to say, I will sell you a magical carpet ride. Every trainer is going to tell you that. What makes me better is what is the connection you just feel with me off the bat. And that's not something that I can sell you. That's just something that you're going to feel, right? As a trainer, I can't sell that to you. That's just a connection that's going to naturally happen. So I'm not going to be a person that's going to say, oh yeah, I'm better and you're going to get this here because of blah, blah, blah. My business is not built on that. My business is a natural connection you're going to feel with me. I can't sell that to you. That's just going to be something that naturally happens when you walk in the door. So they're always shocked when I say that, and they're like taken aback, but I feel like my honesty and my energy that you feel when you come in my studio is what sells it, not me trying to bring down other competitors. So I feel like when other competitors hear that, they're like, oh, you know, so I feel like you should watch that live that I did on my studio the other day. So we outgrew that studio after 2 years. I saved every single penny that I had made from that studio. And it was hard. As a single mom who filed bankruptcy, I lived in a tiny studio apartment. It was really hard. Try having a toddler at the time, living in a studio apartment with no room, but I saved everything that I had. And at the time, my online brand, let's go back to that too. And I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but I'm trying to intermingle it. You know, that one-on-one training I was telling you about, it became really time consuming because I was just trading dollars for hours. So I wanted to go ahead and change that business model. So what I did was I wanted to go ahead and focus on multiple people all at once. So the business scope changed online, where instead of just one person, I wanted to do multiple people. So I focused on memberships, and I did the same in my studio. And I wanted to change the brand because my brand was Erica Fit Love. For so long, it became Erica Fit Love. And people just wanted to work with me. If they couldn't work with me, they didn't want to be there at all. And I couldn't do that anymore. If I wanted to scale my business, people had to get used to someone else other than me. So then my brand name changed to Fit Love. I dropped the Erica. So then other people could be invited into my space. So I started in reinvesting the money that I had saved. And then I got a brand new studio. And then I started changing my business model to a membership base. So I'm going to change gears here. So at the time, I reinvested into a new studio. I actually got into a major car accident. I passed out while I was driving one morning. It was 6:30 in the morning. And I felt really weird. I remember it. I was like, I'm really hot. I don't feel right. If you guys are familiar with Centerville, getting off 675 where LA Fitness is, at that light. And I was like, I just have to get to the LA Fitness parking lot. I just don't feel right. There's that church over there. And all of a sudden, my hearing went away. And I was like, okay, this isn't right. And then my eyesight went away, and all I remember was going, oh my gosh, Erica, this is it. And that's it. And I blacked out. Well, I ended up passing over that 4 lanes to that church, down the hill, down that ditch, up the hill, and into that church. And I completely totaled my car. So in that, when the ambulance picked me up and took me to the hospital, in my MRIs to make sure my head and my neck was okay. They found a small mass in the right side of my neck. And then the day after Thanksgiving of 2019 or 2018, I had a needle biopsy to make sure that that mass, what it was, and we found out I had stage 2 papillary thyroid cancer, and it was spreading. So you can imagine, as a single mom who just bought and signed a 3-year lease for her brand new studio in Centerville right behind the Paragon, and reinvested $30,000 from that studio that I had before, saved every penny that I had made, I was completely in disarray. The holidays were just coming up. Like I said, just put down $30,000. Like, I was ready to expand my business. I was super excited. And then remember how we were talking about the online membership. I also just put in $25,000 to change my online membership to Fit Love Squad, so I can have thousands of people versus just one-on-one training as well. So I basically put in over $50,000 in my business and just found out I had cancer. So all that, I still had to basically keep going because I couldn't just stop. And then in January of 2019, I had a full thyroidectomy. So you can see I have my scar right there still. I had a full thyroidectomy, and they took away 33 lymph nodes. And then in March of 2019, I had radiation. So for 10 days, I couldn't have my son around me. I couldn't have my animals around me. No one could be around me because I joke that song radioactive, right? No one could be around me because I was complete radioactive. And then right after I got done with my radioactive treatment, that was in March, April, May, I got a instant message or a direct message on Instagram from someone who said, "Hey, we are producers from a TV show, and we think you should try out for this TV show." And I remember I responded back and said, "Oh, well, if it's anything like The Biggest Loser, I don't think I want to try out because it's not the best TV show." And she goes, "Well, funny you say that. It is The Biggest Loser." And I kind of was like, "Oh, cat caught my tongue." And then she said, "Well, it's actually completely different. It's a whole different approach. So I think you should try out for it." So keep in mind, I just reinvested $50,000 into my business. I just got done with cancer. Like, my life is all over the place, right? And remember how I said earlier, I feel like my life has always been like ups and downs and rise from the ashes. So it's like file bankruptcy, get cancer, reinvest money, like all this stuff's been all over the place. This has just been my life. So I'm still navigating those waters of the money's being reinvested and figuring out business, and still getting over, like, my body's gone through a lot, right? So I go through the interviews, and the first one's a phone call, and she's like, "Okay, we'd love to do a video interview with you." So I go through the video interview, and it's a Skype call. And after the first Skype call, she's like, "We'd love to do a second one. I would love to do it with the casting director." And I have one with the casting director, and that one lasts an hour and a half. And after I get done with that one, my then boyfriend's in the background. And after I shut my computer laptop, he goes, "You got the job." And I was like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "If they don't pick you, they are ridiculous." So then my studio is being built. We go ahead, and I remember it was, we have our grand opening party. We go ahead and move with it. Things are flourishing. I hire another trainer. Things are going good. Like, business is starting to boom again. I'm feeling great. My body's coming back again, slowly but surely. We go ahead and launch my membership, my online membership at this time. And my online membership, what we do is, it's called Teachable, which is a really great app. And what you do, it's used for teachers, actually, and I found it's one of the more affordable ways to do an app program. Teachers use it for their online students. It was only a $99, which is great, so my overhead was super low, but I reinvested with a tech team. So I would definitely look into Teachable if you want to start getting an affordable app and getting members on there. But it was great. And right now we have over 2,600 members on my online membership, and they're all auto billing. So you can imagine how great that is. So online membership is going great. So then I actually get a phone call that says, we want to do a chemistry test with you. And a chemistry test is they want to see how well I react on camera. So I get flown out to California, and they go ahead and say, okay, let's go and put you on camera. We're going to go in and give you 2 people who are like Biggest Loser contestants. And we're just going to put 50 camera people on you and see how well you do under pressure working out with 2 people who are like Biggest Loser contestants. And I'm like, all right, let's go for it. So within, literally get flown out to California, and they don't tell you anything until you're on set. So I work out with these 2 people for 2 hours, and then they throw me a monkey wrench. So there is a test called the NASM. So the NASM is one of the hardest fitness instructor tests and certifications you can get. And people take this test, and people study for this test for about 12 months. And I had already an ISSA certification and an ACE certification, which is 2 of the top 3, and NASM is the top of the top. And I remember after my chemistry test, the casting producer says, okay, so do you have your NASM? And I'm like, no, I already told you I don't have it. I have 2 of the top 3 already. She goes, well, can you get your NASM? And I was like, how long do you want me to get it? And she's like, 10 days. And I was like, whew, all right, people take a year for this test. And she's like, can you get it in 10 days? And I'm like, all right, I'm going to try. So the test is $1,500. So I remember I'm in the car right after my chemistry test. I'm in the limo on the way back to the airport. I go ahead and register for the test. The moment I land in Dayton, I start studying for the test, and it's a proctored exam, and you have 1 attempt to take it. And if you fail the attempt, you have to wait 12 days to take it again. So I had 1 attempt pretty much, because if I didn't, then I had to wait 12 days, and I don't have 12 days. So I am nervous as all get out. And then in the meantime, guys, I just bought a new house. So I'm moving into a new house at the same time. So my life's a little chaotic. So I have 10 days to study for this test. And then I'm just like telling you guys all this crazy stuff, because how I got this job is just absolutely insane. So then keep in mind, remember I got that car accident, right? When I found out I had cancer. So they said, we need to run your background test. We need to run your background check to make sure everything's fine. I'm like, oh yeah, everything's good. Like, I'm not a criminal. Like, go ahead and run this. Well, then they run my background check, and they're like, your license is not valid. And I'm like, come again? So when I got my my car accident, they put a medical hold on my license because I passed out while I was driving, and my doctor never sent in my okay that I was cleared to drive again after my accident from when I passed out while I was driving. So I had to go back to my doctor to have him sent into Ohio, had to tell the casting director why it was on hold. It was a hot mess. So how I got this job, and it was like it had to be meant to be in the first place, is beyond me. So then that happened. Then I go take my test. Obviously, I passed, right? In 10 days, and people study this test for a year, passed it. Then I remember it was a Wednesday afternoon. I'm working out at the gym. I see a California number calls me, and she goes, do you want the good news or the bad news? And I'm like, the bad news. She goes, the bad news is you've got to be on a plane in 10 hours to be gone for 4 months. And then the good news is you got the job. And I just started crying. And I just remember thinking, holy smokes, I have less than 10 hours to get on a plane. And no joke, I had to be on a plane at 8 a.m. the next morning. So it was a little bit more than 10 hours. But I had less than 24 hours to get my life together to be gone for 4 months. And no one could know where I was going. So I couldn't tell my clients. I couldn't tell my trainers, because it had to be under wraps, because the network had to deal with People Magazine to release that we were the trainers. So keep in mind, my business was brand new. I just bought the studio. I just bought a brand new house. My membership online just got released, and I just reinvested in a brand new tech team. They couldn't know. No one could know. The only people could know was, I couldn't even really tell my son because he's 9 years old or 8 years old. So, he'll tell everyone, right? So no one could really know where I was going for at least 2 months. And I had to get everything together to be gone for 4 months, because I could not come home for 4 months. So it was a really, really interesting time. So it just goes to show that everything in your life happens for a reason. And I honestly believe that. Like, I have been through the ringer so many times in my career, and my career is fitness. And my career is to inspire people and to motivate people. And in my short 33 years in life, I have been through a lot. I have been through divorce. I have been through financial hardships like filing bankruptcy. I have been through cancer. I have been through autoimmune disorders. I have been through being a single mom and learning how to fall flat on my face. I have been through living in a studio apartment with a toddler, crammed together to save to build the business of my dreams. I have been through all that because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to be on, a grand scale like national TV. I knew I wanted to do that one day. I knew I wanted to be the trainer that everyone wanted to know. I knew I wanted to open my own studio. I knew I wanted to be on magazines. Those are things I knew I wanted to do, but I had to sacrifice really hard, or I knew I had to fight through cancer to do that. I knew I had to live in a studio apartment to do that. So all in all, you have to fight like hell to get what you want, and it's going to be really hard. Like my husband during COVID, his business, he's had it for 15 years. I've never seen my husband cry once. And he cried when COVID happened because he thought his business was going to be pulled from out of him. And he fought like hell really, really hard and went to his office every single day, even though it was closed, because he knew what he wanted to do. And now his business is starting to flourish and thrive again. But he had to sacrifice a lot when lockdown happened. So you guys know, as entrepreneurs, like, it's not every day is pretty, right? And we have to fight really, really hard. So I guess like I tell all my clients and tell everyone who comes in contact with me, not every day is pretty, not every day is glamorous, but you have to fight like hell to get what you want. And I can contest to that. And I continue to do that every single day. So if you guys have any questions, I'm definitely happy to answer any of them. But I thank you guys so much for having me on here, because I love telling my story and I love helping women like you who want to chase their dreams every day. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Erica. Wow, that was an incredible story. Yeah, I want to open it up to questions. I've got one to kind of kick things off, but I think we're a small enough group, so if folks want to unmute themselves and ask the question themselves, you're welcome to. Or if you're more comfortable typing in the chat box, and I can read it aloud, please feel free to do that. But I'll kick things off with a question. So I was just thinking, we hear this story a lot from entrepreneurs, right? So they have, what may be considered a typical, 8 to 5 job. You mentioned you were working in human resources, I think for iSupply, and, working kind of that typical job, and you want to make the leap to starting your own business. You mentioned, self-publishing and doing some of those things, but when did you know, or did you know that you had what it took, or, that you were going to make that ultimate leap to, not working this 9 to 5 job anymore? You were going to go out on your own. And can you kind of describe what that felt like?
So when I did that, I didn't ever really know. And, people will constantly tell you, just take that leap, and it's super scary to do that. And I felt like when I fought against it for so long, and you're always looking at your bank account, it's like when people tell you there's never a good time to have a baby. There's never a good time to have a baby. Or when it came to this new puppy I got, there's never a good time to get a new puppy. There's never a good time to make that leap. And there really isn't. And I remember when I was constantly looking at my bank account, or I was constantly crunching the numbers, and my husband now will even tell me, don't do bad math. Don't do bad math. And what he means by that is, when you're looking at your bank account and you're looking at what's coming next, it's never going to add up the correct way that you want it to add up. And it was never going to add up the way that I wanted it to add up. And here's the thing, and you guys may be thinking, oh, well, Erica, you can afford to do that now because your life is set up the way it's set up, and that's farthest from the truth. But I will tell you, the moment I decided to start letting God or the universe take care of me, and understand that when I decided to take the leap, like, it's going to happen for me if I just constantly let go and let live. It's going to happen for you. And I know that's hard to say because you guys aren't living it right now, or you're scared to take it. But the moment I decided to let go and constantly be like, yes, I'm going to let it flow to me, it does flow to me. I know it's very, who's that one guy? Tony, what's his name? Tony Robbins. You know how he always says, let it flow to you and it will flow to you. I promise you that is the truth. So I do not worry about money, even though sometimes, like even when I decided to let that leap of my first studio when I was a single mom and I had to go to that garage studio, I had less than $100 in my bank account when I signed that lease for that garage, and I had to buy everything secondhand. And there was times when I had $12 left in my bank account when I had to buy some of that equipment. And I was like, that's okay. It's going to happen for me. It's going to happen. Let it flow to me. And it always happened. I always had food on my table. It always managed. I was like, it's going to happen. And it always did. And you just have to keep going. I know it's the crazy, there's no magic answer. You just have to do it and it's going to work out. I promise you, it's going to work out. And even now, when I'm cutting the wires sometimes, I'm like, it's going to be okay. And it's always okay. I promise you, it's always okay. There's never a good time. I wish there was a magical answer. There's never a good time. Just go for it. I promise you.
Great. So I'll open the floor to questions if anybody has one for Erica or.
Hey, Stephanie, Erica, it's Vanessa.
Yeah.
I'll ask a question. I'm just curious about your clients. Do you mainly see women because you're a woman trainer, or do you have a pretty good mix? I'd just be curious your take on that.
Yeah, shockingly, I have a lot of male clients, We have about 22 male clients, and then we have about 13 couples as well. So that puts us over close to 40 male clients, like mixture. And then shockingly, my online, we have, I would say, over 150 male clients online. Now, granted, out of 2,600 clients online, that's not a big ratio of male clients, but that's still, for a female driven, especially with my branding, that's a pretty big bulk of male clients in general. So especially in person, it's pretty good. I think with the Biggest Loser, obviously with Jim winning, a lot more males jumped on board because they can see that what I can do for a man and how much I can crush them obviously helped me. So, but yeah, we have a lot of male clients, but that was a good question. So
I have a question. This is Janet Harp.
hi, Janet.
Hi. Can you tell me what your age range is in clients? As I get older, I find that there's less and less out there geared to people my age. It seems to all be geared towards 20s and 30s, even 40s versus 50s and 60s and beyond. And I've been a lifetime exerciser. So yeah, I just wonder what your age range is and what there is out there for people my age.
Yeah, and I would love to kind of dig in deep with that with you too, because well, first off, to answer your question, I have clients that are in their 70s and 80s, so that's something I'm used to, but I would love to maybe even connect with you on that, because that's interesting to say, and I hear that a lot. So I'd be interested to see why you feel that way. Is it just because, like, advertising wise, or what you see on social media and what you don't see on social media is why you feel that way?
I think it's a lot of different things, magazines, the whole array. I don't see a lot geared towards women. I don't even want to say older women because that freaks me out, but it's the truth.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Are you Dayton local, Janet, obviously?
Yeah, I am. I live in Beaver Creek and work in Dayton.
Interesting. I like that you brought that up. See, now my wheels are turning. I like it. Thank you, Janet.
Yeah, I'd love to chat more about it. That'd be great.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would love to email and connect with you. So thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we'll share Erica's contact information with everybody in our follow-up email. Lisa, did you have something you wanted to add? That I saw you raise your hand. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to echo Janet. Erica, thanks for sharing your journey. It's really inspiring. I think that as women that are going through menopause, I have an appointment tomorrow that I'm walking into my doctor's office and saying, what the heck? I have been working out, like, we got a Peloton bike before Christmas, and I am on that bike and I'm doing strength training. I'm using that Peloton app like you would not believe. Eating habits are fantastic. Like I'm eating probably 1,400 calories a day, but I can't lose weight. Like my clothes are tighter now, and I know that I'm starting to go through menopause, and it's like, don't we ever get a break? I mean, we have a period for 50 years. We give birth. I mean, why? I get that Eve screwed up in the Garden of Eden, but come on. I mean, like, when do we get a break? And so I just wondered about the hormonal piece too.
Great question. So here's the thing. I'm going to recommend, so this is another thing, like I tell everyone, don't even get me started on. I'm a huge advocate. I can talk, and I see Katie Cutter is on this call. So Katie is my husband's sales director, and she can contest, like, I can talk about hormones until I'm blue in the face because I'm a huge advocate of it. So one thing I'll tell all of you guys, I'm a huge advocate of every woman going and getting their hormones checked at least once a year. And if you're over the age of 40, getting them checked once every 6 months. There is a company out there, and I think all of you guys should write them down. It's called Life Extensions. If you look them up online, it's a blood test that you can order yourself. I take it once a year myself, and it's called Life Extensions Weight Loss. And it's probably about a $250 test, which is pretty pricey, but however, it'll give you the most accurate readings ever. So there's something called, like, most doctors, when you go in and you get a blood test, 95% of the time, raise your hand, your doctor will say, come in the morning and come in fasted. Am I right? Raise your hand. Yeah, right? So when you do that, you have something called your natural circadian rhythm. Your natural circadian rhythm is your natural hormone rhythm. Now, the thing is, when you come in the morning and you come in fasted, your natural hormone rhythms are naturally elevated in the morning. So when you get your hormones, your blood test done in the morning, and your doctor reads it and they're elevated, they're normal when they're high in the morning because your natural circadian rhythm is higher in the morning anyways. When you get it done in the afternoon, they're supposed to taper off and they're supposed to be down. So when you get them done in the morning and they're high, they're normal, right? So you want to get them done and advocate for yourself to be like, no, doctor, let me get them done 2 hours fasted and in the afternoon, because that's when they're supposed to be tapered off and lower. And if they're not lower and they show up higher, that's when they come up abnormal, right? So I always get mine done in the afternoon because it's going to show abnormal. So I actually did a test with my endo, and I said, no, let me go ahead and do your test in the morning fasted, and let me show you my test 2 hours fasted in the afternoon. Completely different numbers. And he was like, fine, Erica. And he let me get the medication that I knew I needed because I advocated for myself. So advocate for yourself. But now if you're going through menopause, I would say definitely advocate for yourself. Now, I would do what your doctor would say, but I have a company, I co-own a company called New Ethics, where we do nothing but hormonal supplementation. So I'd be happy if you want to connect with me and let me see what your lab work says. I would be happy to go over that stuff because I'm super, super passionate, because I understand what it's like to be frustrated. Now, if you're only on 1,400 calories, that's not enough, especially if you're doing Pendleton or your bike and you're doing resistance training, you're not eating enough, especially if you're going through menopause. I'll tell you that right now. And I would love to see what you're eating too, but I can tell you're not eating enough, which sounds crazy, but eat more to lose more, especially if you're working out. Me, I only do cardio for 20 minutes a day. I do resistance, and I eat 2,100 calories full of carbs, and I'm losing weight. Wouldn't that be great? Right? So I'm telling you, send me an email. Let's connect, and I would love to help you. So don't suffer. If you can eat more and not work out so much, let's do that. Okay? Katie can contest.
I'm going to go ahead and chime in, Erica, because I wanted to go off of what Janet said earlier. Hi, everybody. I'm Katie. There is a wide mixture of people that come to Erica's workout classes. At first, I was super intimidated because she is a Biggest Loser trainer. She if you watch the show, it was very intense. There are no excuses because she's given them all herself. So when I got there, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't want to do this. I'm scared. But it really is adaptive. And I saw women who in the class with me who were younger than me. I'm 29. Then there were women who were 40, 65. I think one of the women in there is 65 that I just did a workout class with last week. But one thing that Erica is huge on is getting your blood levels checked, getting blood work done. And it's a huge difference when she's talking to you, because she's not just talking to you in the same way she talks to everyone. She really tries to understand what's going on with you personally. It's really cool.
Thank you, Miss Katie. Appreciate that. She may have, she told me the first time and I laughed. She's like, whoa. She's like, I thought I was working out, but I really was not working out. She's a trooper though. She kills it. But yeah, Lisa, definitely connect with me. I'd love to help you. And same thing for you, Miss Janet. Let's connect, because I'd love to like dig into your mind about what we talked about earlier. So thank you for bringing that up.
Sure, sounds great to me.
Awesome.
Erica, can you talk a little bit about, it sounds like you've always had a very robust online presence and started to kind of create those communities online prior to everything that's happened in the last 6 months. But can you talk about like sort of how that's maybe grown or changed when there's less opportunity to meet in person, and kind of where you're looking for that piece next, not knowing how long this COVID crisis is going to last?
Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously the online space has changed a lot in the last couple years, and now with COVID, it's changing even more, and it's changing faster and more aggressively than ever. So, you know, with social media, I've noticed in the past couple months, especially even pre-COVID, that it's not even so much the content that you're putting on your actual pages. People are now wanting more stories than anything. You know, when I talk to brands who want to work with you, it's not let me see what interaction you're getting on your pages. It's let me see the interaction you're getting on your stories. Let me see the impression that you're getting on your stories. That's what people want now. It's not let me see your content on your pages, not let me see that. That's actually gone away. And people want to see your email listing. That's always going to be something. You need to build that. Funnels are still a big thing. So if you're not building your funnels, you need to start building your funnels. YouTube's always still going to be a big thing. But for me, I've really learned, I did an online summit. If you guys didn't check that out, I think you should. I'm actually building a new one. What I did when COVID first started was I always every year do a Fit Love Summit. And it always is an in-person summit. And I do a couple inspirational speakers, and we would do a workout, and it would be a Friday and Saturday, and then people would go home on Sunday. And it would be like $150, $200 ticket. And on Friday, people would come in the evening, they would grab their ticket, they would grab their bag. It would be like a mixer on Friday. On Saturday, it would be a yoga class. And then on Saturday afternoon, it would be an inspirational speaker. We would have an interactive class. We would have a workout. And then Saturday night, it would be like a party. And then Sunday, people would go home. And I still wanted to have that this year. So instead, I did an online summit. And what I did is I used Zoom. And then what I did to really pump it up is I did Zoom live. So you could actually stream Zoom to a Facebook page. So what I did for ticket holders is I did Shopify tickets, and then I did Shopify ticket holders. They just went directly to a Facebook page. To really anticipate things and pump people up on that Facebook page, I made it really interactive where we did giveaways. So I would go ahead and do posts, and I would do like a $5 Starbucks, you know, gift card, or the other people involved with the summit. So I reached out to other influencers, like I did a yoga influencer. We have a really popular boxing influencer this time coming up. We have people from Love is Blind. You guys remember that Netflix show? I have a special guest from Love is Blind. I'm not going to tell you who, but they're going to be involved. So it's going to be fun to pump people up on the Facebook page, and they can all interact with each other and get really excited. And I actually launched my Fit Love Fuel product on the last one. So that was cool to really pump up my sales and get people excited about that. And then we went live. So that way I did not have to navigate over 500 people on Zoom, miking them or muting them and whatever. And I just had to navigate the 6 people that I had on Zoom coming and going, the speakers coming and going. So it worked out perfect, and the people could just log on Facebook as they wanted to. And I sent a digital PDF program, and I just attached that on the Facebook group so they could download that and follow along how they wanted. So it worked out seamlessly. And a lot of influencers are doing that because it's a very low maintenance, it's super easy, and people can come and go as they please, and it's always there for them. So the overhead is super low, it's there for them to come and go as they please, and there's no maintenance as the person or as the salesperson or influencer to do at all. It's a one-stop shop. It's one time for them. It was nothing else for me other than a Sunday. I spent all day Sunday on there, which was kind of exhausting. I tanked, I'm not gonna even lie, at 6 o'clock at night. I was out for the rest of the night. I was done, but it was great. And I donated all the proceeds to the first responders. I think we did 10% of the proceeds went to the tech team that was involved. I did that, but moving forward, you know, we are doing proceeds go to us or the participants or whatever. But it was great. So, you know, navigating your business in that aspect, I think is a really, really great idea, because it's low overhead. You guys don't have to do much other than one day. You don't have to navigate that space other than one time. And you really don't have to do a lot of inner workings in that. So I would suggest looking into that avenue.
That's great, Erica. There's not a single person on this call who's probably not exploring some of those tools as we speak. So
Yeah, it was great.
We had one question come through the chat box about how did you feel about starting your business in Dayton specifically? Did you get the support that you needed from the community? I mean, can you kind of talk about what that experience was?
Yeah, good question. I love Dayton, and to be completely honest, there are some times where I feel Dayton has some growth to do when it comes to that space. I would love to just say that Dayton is very open to helping each other, especially when it comes to women with women. I think women have a lot of opportunity of growth to do in that space, you know, and women in general. It doesn't have to do with Dayton in particular, but I think women in general have a lot of opportunity of growth to do with supporting each other, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. We have a lot of way to grow. It's gotten better, but you know, I think every city has some opportunity with that. I would love to say, yeah, it was great, but no, it wasn't. It was really hard. But that also has to do a lot with the person. I think since I was so new with it, I didn't ask a lot of questions. I didn't ask for a lot of help either. I think if I was more open to saying, hey, and opening or asking for resources, it would probably been a lot easier. But as a new business owner, I didn't even know where to really look 4 or 5 years ago. Now that I am more inundated in the community, I think it would be a lot easier. So that's a hard question for me to answer because I really didn't even know where to look, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think we hear that a lot, and I think what you described in terms of creating those networks of support, particularly among female leaders, is exactly why we have groups like Executive Women's Council.
Yeah.
You know, our Empower Leadership cohort you're exactly right. We need to be that support system for each other, and that's how we get ahead. Do we maybe have time for one final question if anybody wants to chime in? I'm going to keep everybody on time.
Yeah, there was another question that kind of came through in the chat box, but just talking about how great you're a great businesswoman now, how you have all these companies that you're seeing and managing. How did you kind of learn all of that?
In what regards, I guess? Like people contacting me?
To just like running a business. You came from like the world of HR and now you're, kind of running your own company.
I had to fall flat on my face a lot. You know, I had to learn the hard way. I learned a lot of hard mistakes. I guess that's what you have to do as any business owner. You really have to learn the hard way. There were a couple times I made bad business deals. There was a couple times I worked with people I probably shouldn't have worked with, and I wish I didn't have to, but I think I needed to learn the hard way. And like Stephanie said earlier, you know, looking back at it, I wish I made those networks of people that I could have reached out to earlier, and, you know, maybe not have taken the time to reach out to people. I think we all need to learn those mistakes to be good business people, because now I feel like it's just second nature. You know, when I talk to people and they're like, say what about Instagram, or say what about doing that with the bank, or say what about running this kind of business, I'm like, oh yeah, you do that. And it's just second nature to me, because I've had to do it for so long, and it's just something that I've had to run its course, that it's just easy for me now, because you've had to learn your mistakes, right? So I just think it's just something you have to learn to do, and you're forced to do. It's been many nights of Googling and researching and being up till 2 a.m. and sleepless nights. I think we can all learn about that, even if it is you know, you're in your 9-to-5 job or your corporate job. I remember at iSupply when I was an HR director, there was so many nights that I was like still Googling what some of these HR terms meant, and, you know, staying up at the office and filing and learning my workers' comp lingo and stuff like that. Like, it's just, you have to learn the hard way and put in the time. So it's not something that came easy to me whatsoever.
That's great. Erica, thank you so much for your time this morning. This was a
Thanks,
really
guys. I appreciate
incredibly
it.
interesting conversation, and really appreciated all the perspective you provided, not only about your personal journey, but also about starting a business here in Dayton. So on behalf of the Dayton Chamber, we want to thank everybody for joining us. And I know that Jenna and Vanessa and I are talking about future opportunities for us to connect. It may be a while before it's in person, but hopefully we'll be able to gather together and hear from some more engaging female leaders from across the community. So thanks so much, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.